In our gospel reading this weekend, we see how the apostles are arguing amongst themselves about who is the greatest. And this should be no surprise to anybody, as we're all human beings and we're so vain and insecure that oftentimes we want to be the best. I mean, how many of our sports are geared not towards so much a team effort or participation, but who's the greatest, who got the gold medal? It's tragic. And this, of course, creeps into the church and to faith as well. We're always trying to one-up each other to overcome the insecurities that we feel within. But why were the apostles arguing here in our gospel? If we read the beginning of the reading, we see how Jesus is telling them about how he's going to be handed over and killed. And so in many ways, the apostles, hearing that, get feeling even more insecure that their leader and their guide and the one who's doing all these amazing things is going away. So in that insecurity, they start fighting with each other. And the greatest, easiest fight, if you will, is who is the greatest. Now Jesus says to them, placing a child in their midst, said, whoever is the servant of all, whoever is childlike, will be the one who is the leader and is the greatest. That in a sense, in God's kingdom, human metrics don't apply. If you strive to be the greatest in control, it ain't going to go well for you. But if you strive to be a servant, if you strive to be childlike in faith, trusting, that is when we are exalted. In a sense, those who look for power shouldn't be in power, yet those who don't look for it are the exact perfect ones to be in power. Our first reading today, though, is really quite tragic from the book of Wisdom, because we see the line, the wicked say, let us beset the just one, because he is obnoxious to us. And why is the just one obnoxious? Because they're living in sin, and they don't want to hear that they're living in sin. So let's put these two things together, because so many people today feel faith is obnoxious because they don't want to be told they're wrong. Even though they know it's wrong, they don't want to be told that. But on the same side, look at how many times in our parishes, even our own families, our insecurities get the best of us, and our trying to be in control or be in charge derails the mission that Christ has for us. And I think this is where we really need to meditate on these readings this weekend and recognize that Jesus is calling us to so much more of an excellent way. I can tell you, as a priest all these years, oftentimes when I'm looking for people to be in leadership, I look for the people who are capable but definitely don't need it. And what I mean by that is some people need to be in charge because they have such a vacuum in themselves. It's like they need to be needed. They want to be needed. They want people calling on them and needing them. Like that somehow fulfills part of their identity or part of their own feeling about being good. Like if they're not needed, then they're no longer good. But then you also have people who don't need that, who have good relationships in their life and have that security within, that quite frankly, taking a leadership position is a great suffering. I remember many wise old priests telling me before I was ordained that being a pastor should always hurt. And what they meant by this is that if I somehow get enthusiastic or I get something from being in charge, I probably shouldn't be in charge because that's like being a tyrant. Tyrants, lead and feed off of being in charge and ordering other people around. But as a pastor, we can't be that way. We need to be the servant of all. We need to be willing to suffer with our flock. As parents, do parents get a thrill bossing their kids around? Well, I'm sure some bad parents do. But most good parents don't want to yell at their kids, don't want to tell them what to do. Good parents want their kids to have the maturity to be able to do it themselves. And the same thing with God. Can you imagine what Jesus must have felt in this gospel reading? How tragic it must have been that his apostles are fighting about who is the greatest when he's trying to prepare them for his death, prepare them for this leadership handoff, and then in their insecurity, they're completely messing it up. I sometimes wonder how much we must grieve the Holy Spirit in the church, how many things we mess up because of our insecurity, because we're not willing to live in the pattern of Jesus' death, suffering, and resurrection. Rather, we try to do it in so many earthly ways, trying to be CEOs and powerful people and be more politicians than Catholic, if you will. So, as we live this coming week, I think it's very important that we are mindful of these things. When we do our evening prayers to really ask the Lord, have I given in to pride and power and possessions? Have I allowed those three big P's of sin to get in the way of me truly being a son or daughter of God? Have I been docile to the Holy Spirit? Have I needed to be in charge? Or have I been in charge for all the right reasons? I think these things are good to keep checking within us because the effects of original sin are deep. And for each of us, we need to keep purifying our hearts and keep healing from those effects of the sinfulness in our lives. God bless all of you, and I hope to see you in the subsequent videos this week. Magnificat anima mea Dominum. My soul magnifies the greatness of the Lord.